The day I realized my own son saw me as a bank. I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the bank alert. It was early morning. The sun wasn't even up yet. I was in the kitchen boiling water for tea when my phone vibrated. 3,700,000 Nigerian nairas withdrawn. My heart stopped. That was my pension. My entire retirement savings. Money I had protected like a newborn child. For a second I thought it was a bank error. Or fraud. Or some online thief. But then I saw the name on the transfer log. Daniel. My only son. At first I genuinely thought I was hallucinating. Daniel. The same Daniel I raised alone? The same boy I sacrificed everything for? The one I skipped meals for so he could eat? The one I sent to school selling my jewelry, my wrappers, my comfort, piece by piece? I scrolled again. Stared harder. My eyes didn't lie. He stole my pension. All of it. My knees gave way. I held the kitchen counter to steady myself. Why would my son do this to me? I called him immediately. He didn't pick. I called again. Nothing. On the fourth call he finally answered and said in a soft, shaky voice, "Mummy, I'll call you back. I'm in the middle of something." The tone alone told me everything. He knew. He knew what he had done. By afternoon my brother, Uncle Jude, came to visit. He found me sitting in the living room staring at the wall like a widow who had lost everything twice. "Sister, what happened?" he asked. I handed him my phone without speaking. He looked at the alert. Then back at me. At first he was silent. Then he muttered a single sentence, slow and dangerous. "So your son thinks you're a fool?" I broke down crying. I told him everything. How Daniel's wife had been pressuring him, how they'd been complaining about money, how she wanted a business, how she wanted a new apartment, how she wanted a car like her friends. But stealing from his own mother? Emptying my life savings? That evening, after hours of pacing and whispering under his breath, my brother finally said, "Don't call him again. Don't beg him. Don't explain anything." I looked at him confused. "What are you planning to do?" I asked. He smiled. A slow, cold, frightening smile. "Let's just say Daniel has forgotten who trained him, but I haven't forgotten who raised you. And nobody, especially not some girl he married, will watch him destroy you." His voice dropped lower. "By tomorrow morning, Daniel will learn a lesson he will never forget." I swallowed hard. "What lesson?" He didn't answer. He simply walked to the door, opened it, and said, "Sleep well, sister. Tomorrow we'll shake your son." The door closed. And for the first time that day, I felt fear. What was my brother planning? I barely slept. Every hour I checked my phone hoping Daniel would call, explain, apologize. Something. Nothing. By 7 a.m. my brother returned. He didn't even sit. "Get dressed," he said. "We're going somewhere." I asked where we were going. He didn't answer. On the drive he was calm, too calm. That dangerous type of calm that comes before a storm. My stomach twisted with dread. We stopped in front of Daniel's estate. My brother turned to me and said, "When we enter, don't speak unless I tell you to." Before I could respond, he opened his door and stepped out. I followed him, my heartbeat shaking my whole body. When we got to Daniel's apartment, my brother didn't knock gently. He knocked like a man with a purpose, hard, loud, intentional. Anyone inside would immediately know. Trouble has arrived. Daniel opened the door and froze. His eyes widened when he saw me, my swollen eyes, my trembling hands. Then he saw my brother. His voice cracked immediately. Uncle, what's going on?" My brother pushed past him and entered the house without permission. Daniel's wife, Lydia, came out from the bedroom wearing a robe, frowning. "Good morning," she said stiffly. My brother looked at her once, then at Daniel. "Sit down," he ordered. They obeyed. The room fell silent, the kind of silence that makes the air feel heavy. My brother placed my phone on the table. Turned the screen toward Daniel. The bank alert glowed brightly. "Explain," he said. Daniel swallowed. "Oh, I was going to tell you." My brother slammed his hand on the table. "Tell who? You stole her entire pension. Her retirement. Her sweat. Her future. You didn't even leave her transport money." Daniel jumped at the sound. "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that," my brother snapped. "If you didn't want the money, you would not have touched it. But you did. And you transferred it to your wife's account." Lydia's face turned white. I didn't know. You knew. My brother cut her off. And even if you didn't, you'll return it. Today. Daniel stood angry. Uncle, you don't talk to my wife like that. My brother stood too. And the room changed instantly. Because for the first time in his life, Daniel realized something. He was not the biggest man in the room. Sit down, my brother said, voice low, deadly calm. Daniel sat. Then my brother leaned close and said quietly, Your mother nearly fainted yesterday. She didn't eat. She didn't sleep. She cried until she couldn't breathe. And you slept peacefully beside the woman who pushed you to ruin her. Daniel's eyes filled. I'm sorry. My brother raised a hand sharply. No. Don't apologize to me. Look at her. Look at your mother and tell her why you needed to destroy her. Daniel turned to me, tears falling. I was drowning. Lydia lost her job. We were behind on rent. She wanted to start a business. She wanted a better life. She said you'd help if we asked, but I didn't want to stress you, so I thought. My voice finally returned. So you stole from me? He broke down completely. I didn't know what else to do. My brother stepped forward again. You don't steal from the person who fed you. You don't take from the woman who raised you alone. You don't betray the only person who would die for you. Then he said the words that froze the whole room. You have until this evening to return every naira. All of it. Or I will handle this matter myself. Daniel wiped his face. Please. I don't have the money. We already used some of it. My brother straightened. Then prepare yourself. Because if you don't return the money today, I promise you. He pointed to the door. You will not step into this house again. Lydia began crying. Daniel shook his head, panicking. Uncle, please don't do this. But my brother was already walking out. I followed him, my heart pounding. When we reached the car, I grabbed his arm. Jude, what are you planning? What are you going to do if he doesn't return it? He opened the car door slowly, looked at me and said, Whatever it takes. The way he said it terrified me, because I knew he meant it. I didn't sleep that night. I tried, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw my son's face, shameless, bold, confident, stretching his hand toward the very pension I worked half my life to save. And then I saw his wife, sitting behind him like a queen waiting for her servant to finish the dirty work. But the part that refused to leave my mind was something else entirely. The look on my brother Daniel's face when he heard what happened. A look I had seen only twice before. Once when our father's land was stolen, and again when his best friend betrayed him. It was a look that meant a storm was coming. By morning, the entire house felt tense. I moved quietly, sweeping the compound, boiling water, setting the kettle aside, things I always did. But today every sound felt loud. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. My son hadn't come home since the confrontation. Maybe he was hiding in shame. Maybe he was planning something worse. But I knew one thing, he wasn't done with me. And his wife certainly wasn't. Around 10 a.m. my brother returned. He didn't knock, he walked in like a decision had already been made. His steps were slow but firm. When he sat down, he didn't greet me. He just looked at me with eyes that felt like they could peel away every layer of pain I had hidden for years. Sister, he said quietly, tell me everything again. So I did. Fully. Word for word. How my son had waited until I was vulnerable. How he threatened that I either gave him the pension or I should forget he ever existed. How his wife encouraged him, saying, Your mother has lived her life. You and I need the money now. How they made me feel like an intruder in my own story. Daniel didn't interrupt. Didn't blink. Didn't even take his eyes off me. And when I finished, he nodded once and said, I knew he would try something foolish, but I didn't think he would go this far. Daniel, what are you going to do? I asked, my voice barely steady. What a father should have done if he was still alive, he replied. That sentence settled inside me like a weight. Heavy, final, unshakable. But before either of us could continue, the gate creaked open. My son walked in. Not ashamed. Not remorseful. Not uncertain. No. He walked in with the swagger of someone who believed he was untouchable. He wore the same shirt from yesterday, only now he added dark sunglasses as if that would hide the disrespect already painted all over his face. And behind him, of course, was his wife, her head tied high, her lips curled in a smirk, her hand tucked in the crook of his arm like they were arriving at a wedding. The moment she saw my brother, her smile faded. Good morning, my son said flatly. Not to me. To Daniel. Daniel didn't respond. My son cleared his throat, pretending not to care. I came back so we can finish discussing the pension. I hope you've thought about it, Mama. It will help us more than it will help you. My mouth dropped open. Not even an apology. Not even guilt. Just greed. Plain, hungry greed. Daniel stood up slowly. The room went cold. My son noticed and took a small step back. Come outside, Daniel said. My son hesitated. For what? Daniel's voice dropped lower. Come outside. Even his wife stepped back. Something in Daniel's tone carried a weight even she couldn't challenge. They all walked into the compound. The sun was high, but the air felt heavy. I stood by the door, watching, praying silently for peace, even though I knew peace was no longer invited into this conversation. My brother faced my son squarely. Yesterday, Daniel began, you spoke to your mother like she was your enemy. Today you walk in here asking for her life savings. Are you not ashamed? My son folded his arms. It's not your business. Oh, it became my business the moment you raised your voice at her, Daniel replied. And the moment you lied and said your wife was the one suffering, when all the money your mother gave you last year was spent on a car you didn't need. His wife's eyes widened. My son froze. Daniel knew. He knew everything. He stepped closer. Do you think we don't hear things in this community? You think people don't talk? Your mother struggled alone for years after your father died. She took loans. She sold her jewelry. She did everything so you could go to school. And this is how you repay her? By stealing from her. My son looked away, jaw clenched. I never said I wanted to steal. Daniel scoffed. Really? Because the way you demanded the pension, you might as well have held a knife. His wife finally found her courage. Uncle, please, we are the ones who need the money. Mama doesn't. Daniel raised one finger. Don't finish that sentence. She swallowed her words whole. And then Daniel turned fully to my son. If you ever speak to your mother the way you did yesterday, if you ever threaten her again, if you ever come here asking for money she worked for, you will not like the man I will become. Silence. My son blinked rapidly, shocked at how far this was going. From today, Daniel continued, you will behave like a man raised with respect. You will greet your mother. You will check on her. And you will not take 1 naira from her again unless she offers it willingly. Am I clear? My son's voice cracked. Uncle, why are you making it sound like I'm a bad person? Daniel leaned close, his voice low and dangerous. Because yesterday you were. My son's wife pulled him slightly, whispering something. He shrugged her off. After a long minute he muttered, Fine. I'm sorry. Not to me. To the ground. To the wind. To the awkward silence. Daniel stepped forward again. Say it to her. My son turned slowly. His eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw my little boy again. The one who used to run to me when he fell, the one who used to cry when he lost a toy, the one who promised to take care of me when he grew up. But that boy was gone now. What stood before me was a man shaped by pride, fear, pressure, and a wife who whispered too many poisonous things into his ears. He swallowed hard. Mama, I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't deep. It wasn't sincere enough. But it was a beginning. And sometimes beginnings come quietly. His wife didn't apologize. She simply held his arm and tugged. Let's go. They left without another word. When the gate closed, Daniel let out a long breath. He didn't look proud. He looked tired. Deeply spiritually tired. I whispered, Thank you. He squeezed my shoulder gently. This fight is not over, sister. This is just the beginning. A boy who can try this once can try it again. But now he knows you're not alone. That night I sat in my room and cried. Not because of the confrontation. Not because of my son's behavior. But because for the first time in a long time, I felt protected. I felt seen. And I felt like maybe, just maybe, this story would not end in betrayal but in correction. But unknown to me, while I was crying in relief, my son was sitting in his living room, staring at the ceiling, listening to his wife whisper one deadly sentence. Are you going to let your uncle embarrass you like that? And just like that, the storm Daniel feared began to gather its clouds again. 3 days passed without a word from my son. I tried to convince myself that silence meant peace, that maybe he had gone home to think, to reflect, to reconsider everything Daniel said. But deep down I knew better. A house that is quiet after an argument is a house planning another one. And a man who sits beside a woman who feeds his anger does not heal, he festers. On the morning of the fourth day I was outside rinsing clothes when my neighbor Mama F walked over. She had that hesitant look she always wore when she wasn't sure whether to speak or stay silent. "Auntie," she began softly, "I don't know if I should tell you this." My heart tightened. Nothing good ever comes from that sentence. "Tell me," I said. She glanced around, lowering her voice even though no one else was nearby. "Your son. I heard him arguing loudly with his wife last night. They were shouting. The whole compound could hear." I swallowed. "About what?" She hesitated. "About your brother. And you." My hands froze in the soapy water. "What about us?" I asked. She sighed. "His wife told him that he let himself be humiliated. She said your brother talked to him like a child. She said you have always favored Daniel, and that everything happening now is proof that you love your brother more than you love your own son." I closed my eyes. The poison had begun. Mama F continued, "Your son said he doesn't want to come back here again unless you apologize for embarrassing him." Apologize? To him? For protecting my own pension? I could barely breathe. "Did he really say that?" She nodded. "And his wife kept telling him that you don't respect him, that you treat him like a failure, that you still see him as a boy." Each sentence landed like a slap. Each sentence was a lie. Each sentence came from someone who wanted my son, not my family. I thanked her quietly and continued washing, though my hands trembled so much the clothes nearly slipped from my grip. By afternoon Daniel arrived again. He always visited lately, as if he could sense when the air in my house was uneasy. When I told him what the neighbor said, he didn't react with anger or surprise. Instead, he leaned back in the chair, folded his arms and said, "I expected this. Pride never dies in one day." "But Daniel," I whispered, "he expects me to apologize to him." "How can he say that?" "Because she is feeding him the wrong story," he replied. "And he is weak enough to believe it." I knew Daniel was right. My son wasn't a bad man at his core. But he had married a woman who believed manipulation was the same thing as leadership. A woman who saw my pension as her inheritance. A woman who wanted my son to depend on her alone. Not on me, not on family, not on reason. Daniel leaned forward. "Sister, listen to me very carefully. If you apologize now, you will lose him completely. He will never respect you again. He will see you as someone he can push, control, and intimidate. This is not the time to bend. It is the time to stand." His words were firm, but my heart felt fragile. I was a mother. Even when my child hurt me, the instinct to protect him, to fix things, to bring him close instead of pushing him away, it never left. "But Daniel," I whispered, "he is my only son." Daniel's expression softened. "And you are his only mother. Don't let his wife make him forget that." Just then the gate creaked. My son walked in. Not angrily this time. Not proudly either. He looked conflicted, like a man caught between two fires. "Good afternoon," he said quietly. Daniel nodded but said nothing. I forced a small smile. "Good afternoon, my son." He sat down, his eyes shifting between us. "Mama, we need to talk." My heart began to race. "I'm listening." He opened his mouth, closed it, sighed, rubbed his face and tried again. "Mama, I didn't like the way Uncle Daniel spoke to me." I nodded gently. "I understand. But you didn't defend me," he added. "You just stood there. You let him talk to me like I was nobody." I swallowed hard. "Because you spoke to me in a way no mother should ever hear from her child." I was hurt. Deeply hurt. He looked down. Daniel watched quietly, saying nothing. My son continued, his voice trembling just slightly. "My wife said something. She said that maybe you don't value me the way you value Uncle. That maybe you think I'm a failure." The room went silent. I felt something break inside me, not anger, not disappointment, but heartbreak. A heartbreak that tasted like helplessness. "Hi, son," I said softly, "if you feel like a failure, it is not because of anything I said. It is because you have allowed someone else to define your worth for you." He looked up sharply. I continued, steady and slow. "I raised you alone. I sacrificed for you. I didn't complain. I didn't regret it. I have never, not once, called you a failure. What I called you was lost. And there is a difference. A lost person can be found. A failure accepts defeat, but you are not defeated. You are confused, pressured, manipulated, but not defeated. His eyes softened. His jaw unclenched. I could see the boy I raised trying to break through the man he had become. But then, the gate opened again. His wife walked in. Beautiful, confident, calculated. And with one glance, she undid everything. "Are you ready?" she asked him as if we were interrupting their day. He stood up almost instantly. Just like that. Without thinking. Without resisting. She looked at me. No greeting. No acknowledgement. Nothing. Just a cold stare that said this conversation is over. My son turned to me. "Mama, I will come back later. We're running late." He didn't wait for my reply. He followed her out. As they walked away, I heard her whisper, "You talk too much when you're here. I told you, stop letting them guilt trip you." My chest tightened. Daniel exhaled slowly. "She is pulling him away," I whispered. Daniel nodded. "Yes. And he is letting her." I turned to him, voice shaking. "What do we do now?" Daniel stared at the gate, his expression grave. "We wait. A person who walks into fire will eventually feel the heat." "Daniel." He looked at me. "I'm scared," I whispered. He placed his hand gently on my shoulder. "I know. But the story is not finished. And storms always reveal the strongest hearts." That night, as I lay on my bed, I knew one thing with painful clarity. The real battle had not even begun. The next morning began with a heaviness I couldn't shake. It wasn't the kind of heaviness that comes from fear or anger. Those emotions burn fast. This one was slower. Quiet. Like a shadow that follows you even in the sun. I made tea and sat by the window, listening to the distant laughter of children playing outside. Their joy felt far away from the world I was living in. My son had left yesterday without resolving anything. His wife's presence had shut down every attempt at healing. And Daniel's words echoed in my mind all night. A person who walks into fire will eventually feel the heat. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to trust that life would eventually teach my son the truth. But I had seen too many men lose themselves entirely to people who understood how to control them. As I stared outside, my phone buzzed on the table. A message. I reached for it slowly, a part of me hoping it was my son. But when I saw the name, my breath caught. It wasn't him. It was his wife. "We need to talk. Alone." I stared at those words for a long time. My first instinct was fear. What did she want? Why no? Why alone? But beneath the fear was something else. A small, burning anger I had tried to ignore for months. A mother should never have to fear the person her son married. I typed a reply with steady fingers. "Come at 4 p.m. I'll be home." When Daniel arrived later that morning, I didn't hide anything. I showed him the message. He frowned instantly. "You shouldn't meet her alone," he said. "Daniel, I have to face this," I replied. "Avoiding her won't fix anything." He leaned against the table, looking at me with concern that made my chest tighten. "Sister, women like her don't come to make peace," he said. "They come to establish dominance. To make you feel small. To intimidate you." I nodded quietly. "I know. But I also know myself. And I know I will not be intimidated in my own house." He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Then I will wait outside. I won't interfere. But I won't be far." His presence alone gave me strength. Daniel, with all his steady patience and quiet loyalty, had become the one person I could lean on without fear of judgment. At exactly 4 p.m. I heard a knock at the gate. Not a polite one. Firm. But deliberate. I opened the door and she walked in, wearing a fitted dress, expensive jewelry, and a look that told me she didn't come to beg. She came to win. "Thank you for seeing me," she said flatly. No smile. No warmth. Just an arrangement of syllables meant to sound respectful but lacking any real respect. "Sit," I said calmly. She remained standing for a moment, as if deciding whether she owed me that courtesy, before finally sitting across from me. "I'll go straight to the point," she began. Her tone was crisp, rehearsed. "Your brother crossed the line the other day. He humiliated my husband. And you supported it." I folded my hands on my lap. "Your husband humiliated himself. Daniel simply told him the truth." Her eyes narrowed. "Truth," she echoed. "Or your family's obsession with controlling him?" I stayed silent. She continued, leaning forward slightly. You think you can tell him how to live? You think you can decide how he uses his money? He's a grown man. He doesn't need you or your brother choosing for him. I took a slow breath. He can choose whatever he wants, but he cannot choose to steal from me. And he cannot force me to fund his household. Her jaw tightened. He didn't steal anything. He was borrowing. Borrowing requires consent, I replied. He took it without asking. Her eyes flashed with irritation, but she smiled, a cold, thin smile. Let's be honest, she said. You don't trust him. That's the real issue. I don't trust you, I corrected softly. The smile vanished. She sat back, crossing her arms, her eyes sharp as glass. I came here to make this easy, she said. But if you want to make it difficult, I can do that too. I remained quiet. My husband is hurt, she went on. He feels disrespected. And he will not come here anymore if things stay this way. If he stops visiting you, that's on you. The threat hung in the air, heavy and bitter. I felt something shift inside me. Not fear. Not sadness. Something calmer. Something clearer. My dear, I said quietly, if you think you can take my son away from me by controlling his emotions, you don't understand motherhood. Her expression flickered for the first time. Uncertainty, confusion, something like frustration. I continued, voice steady. A mother does not compete with her child's spouse. A mother does not fight for attention. A mother loves from a distance if she must. But she does not beg for her place. She blinked, her mask cracking slightly. He is my husband, she said as if reminding me. And he will always listen to me. Then let him, I replied softly. Because if your influence over him requires isolating him from his family, then you are not a partner. You are a captor. She inhaled sharply. Are you calling me manipulative? I am calling you scared, I said. Scared that if he stands alone, he won't choose you. Her lips parted, then closed. I could see the truth land on her whether she wanted it to or not. But she refused to show vulnerability. Instead, she straightened her posture and said, Your brother thinks he is the head of this family. But I'm telling you now, if he ever speaks to my husband like that again, I will make sure your son never steps foot here. I did not raise my voice. I did not change my tone. I simply said, and I am telling you, your marriage will not survive the weight of every bridge you burn. Silence. Thick. Pulled. A silence with edges sharp enough to cut. She stood up suddenly. I'm leaving, she said. Her voice wavered just enough for me to notice. I didn't try to stop her. As she walked toward the door, she paused and turned back. One last thing, she said. Your son thinks you don't believe in him. I met her gaze steadily. He thinks that because you told him that. Her breath caught. Just for a moment. But I saw it. She opened the door and stepped out. Daniel, who had been sitting quietly by the gate watching, stood up immediately as she brushed past him. She didn't look at him. Didn't greet him. Didn't acknowledge him. She just walked away quickly, heels hitting the ground harder than necessary. Daniel walked toward me as I closed the door behind her. How did it go? He asked. I exhaled slowly. She came to declare war. And you? He asked. I didn't fight, I said. But I didn't bow either. Daniel nodded, pride softening his expression. Good. Because this battle is not about shouting. It's about standing. That night, after Daniel left, I sat alone in my living room, the silence wrapping around me like a blanket. Not comforting. Not painful. Just present. I realized something important. Something that shifted the entire way I saw the situation. My son was no longer acting from his own heart. He was acting from hers. His decisions. His anger. His distance. His pride. All of it was shaped by someone who wanted control, not unity. And the more I thought about it, the more I understood the danger. Manipulation doesn't always come with shouting or insults. Sometimes it comes with soft words. With gentle lies. With whispers that reshape a man's understanding of himself. And my son, he was already halfway gone. I closed my eyes and whispered into the empty room, please let this end before it destroys him. I didn't know then how quickly things would worsen. I didn't know how deep the betrayal would cut. I didn't know that the real war, the one that would finally break him, was coming sooner than any of us expected. But that night, as I finally drifted to sleep, One truth settled quietly in my chest. This was not just a family problem. This was a storm. And storms, once they arrive, do not leave until something is destroyed. I always believed rock bottom had a sound. Sometimes it is a quiet crack. Sometimes it is a scream. But that morning in my house, it was a single trembling knock on my door, so soft it almost felt like guilt itself was knocking. I opened the door and found my son, my only child, standing there with his shoulders slouched, his eyes red, his voice gone. Behind him, the morning sun cast a long shadow that made him look like half a man. "Mom, please," he whispered. There was no arrogance left, no pride, no sense of entitlement. Just a broken boy wearing the body of a grown man. I didn't say a word. I simply turned and walked into the living room. If he truly needed me, he would follow. And he did. Slowly. Quietly. Like a child entering a room after breaking something valuable. When he sat across from me, he clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. "Mom, she left me." His voice cracked. A tear slid down his cheek. "She took everything. The money, the gold, even the car key. She blocked me everywhere. She's gone." I wanted to feel pity, but the wound he left in my heart still pulsed fresh. This was the same boy who stood in my kitchen 2 months earlier, looking straight into my face saying, "Mom, it's just money. Stop acting like you're dying." My pension. My entire savings. Years of sacrificing, going to bed hungry, stitching old clothes, working until my bones ached. He had stolen all of it. "Where did you expect this story to end?" I asked quietly. He buried his face in his palms. "I thought I could fix it. She said if I didn't bring the money she would leave. I didn't want to lose her, Mom." "And now?" I asked. He let out a shaky breath. "I have nothing. Not even transport fare to go anywhere." Silence stretched between us. Thick, heavy, necessary. "Mom," he whispered, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I didn't come here for money. I just didn't know where else to go." His voice wavered. "I feel like my life is over." For the first time I saw not a thief, not a betrayer, but my child drowning. But before I could speak, the door opened. My brother, the same man whose silence terrified my son more than any punishment, walked in. He didn't greet. He didn't look confused. He had been waiting for this moment, almost predicting it. He removed his cap, hung it on the wall, and stared at my son with a gaze that stripped the boy down to his soul. "Stand up," my brother said. My son obeyed like a prisoner obeying a judge. "So now you remember your mother," my brother said. "Now that the woman you worshipped has drained you dry." My son swallowed hard. "Uncle, please." "No," my brother cut in sharply. "You will listen." My son froze. My brother stepped closer until they were face to face. "Your mother has cried enough tears over you. Tears you never deserved. Do you even know how many nights she stayed awake praying for you? How many times she defended you? How many times she hid your shame from people?" My son's lips trembled. My brother's voice hardened. "You betrayed your own mother. You stole from the one person who would give you the last food on her plate." Tears streamed down my son's face, quiet but unstoppable. Then my brother did something I didn't expect. He reached into his pocket, brought out a folded paper and threw it on the table. "You know what that is?" My son shook his head. "It's the receipts of the money your mother saved. The pension she worked for. The money you stole." My son flinched like the paper itself had slapped him. "And you know what else?" my brother continued. "I replaced every kobo." My son's eyes shot up. Shame. Disbelief. "Uncle, why?" My brother's voice softened, not kind but honest. "Because your mother didn't deserve to suffer for your foolishness. But I also didn't give her the money so you can come back and steal it again." My son opened his mouth, but my brother raised a hand. "No. Let me finish." My brother turned to me. "Sister, I told you not to beg this boy. I told you to let him face life alone. But you kept praying for him, loving him, waiting for him." Then he looked back at my son. "And now I am giving you one last chance. Not because of you, but because your mother still asks God to protect you." Silence. Heavy. My brother straightened his shirt. "You will stay here for a while. But you will work. You will rebuild your life with discipline. And everything you earn I will monitor. If I see you going back to that woman, just one step, I will personally drag you out of her house." My son nodded desperately. "Yes, uncle." I promise. I won't go back. Good, my brother said. Because next time there will be no saving you. And then, something broke inside my son. The dam cracked. He fell to his knees, sobbing so violently it shook the room. I'm so sorry, he cried. I'm sorry for everything. I don't know why I changed. I don't know why I hurt you. I hesitated. My heart battled between anger and love. But then, I remembered his first cry as a newborn. The way he used to hold my hand when he was small. The nights I carried him when he was sick. He was still my child. A lost one. A broken one. But mine. I knelt beside him and held him. His tears soaked my shoulder. My own tears fell onto his hands. My brother quietly stepped outside, giving us the space he knew we needed. For the first time in years, my son leaned into me. Not for money, not for help, not for comfort, but for forgiveness. And though the wound he caused still throbbed, I whispered the only thing a mother could. We will rebuild. But this time, you must walk the path yourself. He nodded against my shoulder. I will, Mom. And for the first time, I believed him. The morning after my son broke down in my arms, the house felt different. Not lighter, not healed, but shifting. Like a wound that finally stopped bleeding and began to close. He woke up early, earlier than he had in years. I heard him sweeping the compound quietly, as if afraid to disturb the fragile peace hanging between us. When he finished, he sat on the doorstep for a long time, staring into the distance. I watched him from the window. His back was hunched, his eyes swollen, his hands clasped tightly. He looked like someone trying to hold the broken pieces of himself together. I made him breakfast, plain tea and bread. When I placed the tray in front of him, he whispered, "Thank you, Mum," with a sincerity I had not heard in a very long time. My brother arrived shortly after, carrying a small file. My son stiffened immediately, but my brother simply nodded and took a seat. "Sit down," he said. My son did. My brother opened the file and spread out a few documents on the table. "These are job options," he said. "Construction work, warehouse work, and a driver's assistant position. Menial jobs, yes, but they will build discipline. And discipline is the only thing that will save your life." My son swallowed. "I'll take any of them," he said. "Good," my brother replied. "Because your days of choosing pleasure over responsibility ended the day you knelt before your mother." My son lowered his head. My brother continued, "I've spoken to someone. You start tomorrow." There was no room for argument, no opportunity for excuses. My son simply nodded. My brother closed the file and leaned back. "Now listen carefully," he said. "You will work. You will save. Every week you will bring your payslip. If you skip, if you lie, if you disappear even for one day, I will not intervene. I will step aside and let the world teach you. Understood?" "Yes, Uncle," my son whispered. "Good." My brother stood, dusted his trousers and prepared to leave. But before he walked out, he paused and surprised both of us. "Boy," he said, "I don't hate you. I hate what you became. Make sure this version of you never returns." Then he left. And the house became quiet again. That night my son sat with me in the living room. Not on his phone. Not distracted. Just present. "Mom," he said softly, "do you think I can truly change?" I looked at him. This child I once held against my chest. This boy who drifted away. This man who broke me but was now discovering himself again. "Yes," I said. "But change is not a prayer. It is a discipline." He nodded slowly, absorbing every word. The next morning he left for work before sunrise. I stood at the doorway watching him walk down the street. Not confidently, not proudly, but purposefully. A man who knew he had something to prove. He worked hard. Days turned into weeks. He came home exhausted, covered in dust, drenched in sweat. But not once did he complain. Not once did he ask for money. Not once did he look for shortcuts. And for the first time in his life he saved. Every week he handed his payslip to my brother like a soldier reporting to a commander. And slowly, very slowly, the boy I raised began to return. One evening, 3 months later, he came home and sat beside me. "Mom," he said quietly, "I want to tell you something." I turned to him. "Go on." He took a deep breath. "She reached out to me." My heart stopped for a moment. "That woman?" "Yes," he said, staring at the floor. "She said she wants to talk. That she made a mistake leaving. That we can work things out." "And what did you say?" I asked, steadying my voice. He finally lifted his head and met my eyes. I told her no. Relief washed through me like a cool breeze. Why? I asked. He sighed. Because I finally started to see who I was. And I don't want to go back to that man. She didn't love me, she loved what I could give her. When the money ended, she ended too. His voice broke a little. I don't want that life again, Mum. And in that moment I realized my son had truly changed. Not because life punished him, not because his uncle scolded him, not because I cried for him, but because he finally faced himself. He wiped his face and continued, I want to rebuild everything I destroyed. I want to earn your trust back. I want to stand on my own. And one day I want to look in the mirror and see a man worthy of the love you gave me. For the first time in a very long time I held his hand. Not as a mother saving her child, but as a mother supporting a man. I'm proud of you, I whispered. Not because you're perfect, but because you've finally chosen the harder road. Months passed. He became consistent, responsible, present. And slowly, without him even noticing, his life began to bloom again. He became calmer, kinder, wiser. One evening my brother visited unexpectedly. He walked into the living room, studied my son quietly, then nodded. You're doing well, he said. My son bowed his head. Thank you, Uncle. My brother cleared his throat, a small proud smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Keep it up. That was the closest thing to praise my son had ever received from him, and it meant everything. That night after my brother left, my son turned to me. Mom, he said, it's time I start paying you back. I shook my head. Your life is my repayment. No, he said, his voice firm for the first time. I want to rebuild everything I broke. All the pain I caused you, all the tears you cried. I want to make it right. I placed a hand on his cheek and smiled. You already have. And just like that, after all the chaos, betrayal, loss, and heartbreak, peace finally returned to my home. He didn't become rich. He didn't win a lottery. Life didn't suddenly become magical. But he became something far more valuable. He became a man. A man who learned. A man who fell and rose again. A man who finally understood how deeply his mother loved him. And as I watched him leave for work every morning, shoulders straight, steps steady, heart humbled, I knew one thing for sure. Sometimes God doesn't punish. He redirects. Sometimes family doesn't abandon. They wait. And sometimes sons don't stay lost. They just need to be found by themselves.